Linguistic programming is it's going to help you to learn how to control your own internal state. All our limitations, the nice thing about them is they're all limited to the habitual states of consciousness which we normally go into. Which is why we're going to begin to explore some altered states this evening. Because I had another client who had a stroke. The poorest thing ever, the poor guy. He went from, being this incredible athlete, hockey player, husband, friend, and all of a sudden the guy can barely talk and move. And so they bring him to me, and I'm working with him. And of course, I'm doing the whole trance relaxation thing, and before you know it, he's saying, "Chris, I see so much clearer. I can remember things when I listen to your voice like I normally can't." And I go, "Yes, it's very hypnotic for all of you." And it's because when you go into an altered state, you can begin to do new things. And I know some of you in here may have children who, in one situation, you bang your head because they can't focus well, and maybe they're diagnosed with things like ADD and dyslexia, but then they could hop on a hockey rink and become a totally different person. And they can skate, they can shoot, their perceptions expand, they make better decisions, their reaction time's way faster. They're like, who is this kid? Now, this is the whole field of neuro-linguistic programming. How can we take someone's resources within the individual, the things that they do well and they're motivated to do, how can we access those neural pathways and those abilities, and how can we aim those into other areas? So part of when I'm working with a kid who's diagnosed with ADD or dyslexia, I'm looking over, checking him out before he comes in, because I can guarantee you I'm going to see him glued to something, either a phone, an iPad, or a book. Then I'm going to come in and put him in the iPad state, and then we're going to do some math in the iPad state. And suddenly he starts focusing better. I did that with one boy, and he remembered the whole anatomy of the brain in an altered state. Of course, when he goes back into the test, because I hadn't seen him in a while, he goes back into his regular stress state and doesn't access those abilities. But if we train him enough time and give him the control over his brain, he can learn to go into those states and those performance situations and excel in a way they can't do normally. And all this is the main thing. We talk about authenticity, we talk about being yourself. Well, in order to be authentically yourself, it requires that you have the flexibility of mind and consciousness to be able to adaptively respond in the situation. Now, I do QEEG brain mapping in my practice and work, and we can actually see people's brains changing in live time as an act of will. So for instance, they go in and they think about some traumatic experience, you can see their whole brainwave patterns and their brain map changing. I put them into a deep trance in which they go in and remember the best, most wonderful time where they've ever had and the endorphins were flowing, and you see a completely different brainwave pattern. So the question is, which pattern do you want your brain going into the desired situations? Now, controlling your brain, this isn't something new. And really, what I do is just take the best of everything of neurology, neuroplasticity, neurolinguistic programming, trance, nutrition, to basically give an individual all the tools in which they can begin to control their own brain. And it's not about me controlling their brain, it's about them trusting themselves. Because people don't trust themselves because you guys don't act in your best interests. You go, well, I shouldn't be smoking, I shouldn't be eating cake, I shouldn't be sitting on the TV, watching, on the couch, I shouldn't be gambling, shouldn't be thinking about other women, And then all of a sudden our brain learns to do our shouldn'ts. Then suddenly, before you know it, everything you shouldn't do, you start doing, and everything you should do, you just don't do. Now, if you just re-aim that so that you started doing your shoulds, or you just used a different word to do it, you could save yourself all the hassle. So that's what we're going to do here this evening. You see, the thing is, our brain, the coolest thing I ever learned from my mentor, Richard Bandler, is the idea that the brain works perfectly. Everyone else is looking at the brain as if there's something wrong. And when you look at wrong, ladies, you guys know this, when you look in the mirror and you go in the morning and you ask, what's wrong with me? And you look, your ass is too big, you're not tall enough, you're too old, all these lovely things, your brain just starts going on you. And then you feel like shit, and then you just go out in your day. It's a real great way to get things rolling, just get yourself right in the mood, I always tell you, if you're going to get up and go out, you might as well put on an attitude first, most importantly. Yeah. Because I mean, people come in, and so the idea that the brain works perfectly. Now, case in point is people who have phobias. They never just hop in an elevator, and by the time they're on the 4th floor, they go, oh shit, I forgot I'm phobic. You know, it doesn't quite work like that. The depressives don't take a day off. You know, they can even tell you the exact day. You know, people come in, they say, I have anxiety. They should say, I've mastered it. Yeah. Who here suffers from uncertainty? Uncertainty. Are you sure? I'm downright sure I got this self-doubt. You know, and then who here has a bad memory? Yeah. You ever forget to have a bad memory and just have a good remembering day? You know, you know, people come in, I love it. I got this one guy. I had this psychiatrist come in, or he wasn't even a psychiatrist, he was a therapist of some sort. He was doing some technique with this guy. I was doing him do the technique, and I just was cringing at the teeth because he was going to this traumatic experience. I just see the guy sweating in his boots, and I'm saying, please end this at some point. And I'm measuring his brain, and I'm seeing the brain just getting all stressed. And I said, after 45 minutes of that, I said, sorry, I need to intervene. I have an ethical responsibility to make this guy feel better. So I said, what's one thing you want to work on? And he said, my memory. I said, do you ever forget that you have a bad memory? And he goes, well, I remember that I forget my keys. I remember to forget to pay my bills. I remember to forget my girlfriend's birthday or whatever, and before you know it, he's got a list of 20 different things. And I say, well, where do you put that stuff? Well, I put it in my stress box. You know? So all we needed to do was put some new ideas in that same place. Now, to direct all this, our conscious mind, the thoughts, the images, the feelings that we're aware of right now, its job is to steer us. Okay, our conscious mind is supposed to tell us where to go, and it's supposed to tell us when we've got there, so we stop an activity. We're only going good places. We do laughter, we do endorphins, because that's what opens the doorways to learning. Right? Who in here remembers the best party they ever went to? Or at least some details of the best parties? You guys think of some parties? Yeah? You guys remember some details? Yeah. Now I want you to think about your grade 9 geography test. Final exam. How many details can you give me? Canada's above US. Yeah, I remember that.
What grade was the rock test?
The rock?
That was formations. That was grade 9.
Sedimentary rock?
Yeah, it was grade. Well, you might have taken it.
Let me guess, the teacher was kind of fun. The teacher was kind of funny.
Yeah, actually,
right?
He was kind of funny.
And how about those French teachers too? They know how to show a good time. Yeah. You know, they got those nursery rhymes down good. You know, I even remember that jeudi, jeudi kind of stuff, right? You guys, we remember that stuff because we were feeling good. We had the endorphins flowing. We weren't sitting there worrying about stuff going on. You know, I'm in grade 4. One day I'm gonna have to learn this shit to write entrance exams. You know, it may not even be worth it. you know, think about babies if they did that in their crib. You know. Man, I'm locked up in this crib here, and they come, put my diaper on, then they take it off. Then I wake up tomorrow, got to do it all over again. May not be worth it. Swallow this pacifier, it'll all be over. Too much fun. Now, yes, that's right. Now, who's got a bad memory they think about too much that they don't want to think about? Oh, come on. You guys are masters of this stuff. Look, I'm handing out free drugs here. You got one? You got a bad memory you think about too much?
I don't have a bad memory that I think about too much, but you gave us 2 options.
Yeah, something you worry about.
Right.
Okay, now how much time in a day do you worry?
About generally, do you mean, or specifically about this thing that I...
I believe you. I absolutely believe you, dear. You're a good subject for this one. Yes. Now, it may be hard to get it back now in the same way. Now, how often do you do it on average? Like, you talking about an hour a day?
Probably yes, to an hour.
An hour, you know, if it's
Good hour.
a good hour. Sometimes 2, you cook it up. You ever take a day off?
Morning? Never.
Morning never. Great way to start the day.
Never.
Get yourself in state, baby. Tony Robbins style. Worry about fucking everything. Yeah. Now, you may want to take your gum out.
There's a walk. Okay.
Yeah.
Sure. Want to take mine?
Now, who else has got a memory, a bad memory that they think about too much? I'm going to do the whole front row here. Yeah. All right, front row. We all got something. Look, this is just a chance for you to, again, try some new things.
Yeah. I'm willing to stop worrying.
Well, a lot of people aren't. I have to get them to the state. People say you have to have your client ready to be in state. I get them ready. And if they say they need more time, I put them in trance and give them some more time. That's what they're paying you for, to get themselves ready. So, now, so you got something you worry about too much in a day. So you spend maybe an hour?
At least.
Okay. Now, as a plan, do you think it's a good thing to do?
No.
Okay, good. Now, I don't think you're doing it because you're a bad person. It may just be a nervous habit. Now, some people pluck their eyebrows out, and it makes them look absolutely ridiculous. I mean, yours isn't that bad, or I don't know. However, you don't need to tell us any details. You don't need to tell us any details.
Okay.
All we're interested in is the actual structure of how you do it.
Okay.
Okay. Now, when you think about that worry, how big is the image in your mind when you worry about it? Is it life size?
No. It's
Bigger or smaller?
small. It's like this big.
Okay. Well, that's not too bad then. Some people have giant, massive ones.
Bigger than that.
Now, either you girls, I want you guys all to do this. You guys got a worry that you worry about too much?
Yep.
Okay. You got one?
Yeah.
Okay. How about you? You got a worry? Okay. Now, how big's your worry?
I think it's intertwined. A bunch of different.
You got a lot of stuff. I want you to just pick one for now.
Okay.
Okay, pick one thing that you worry about. All right? Now, when you think about it now how big is that worry in your mind?
Big.
Okay, bigger than life size?
Well, no, but big.
So are you seeing people the same size as life size or bigger than life?
Life size.
Okay, life size. Okay, some people have IMAX theaters in their head to really, capture up the feelings. Okay, how about you, Tracy? How big's your worry?
It's not as big as it used to be.
I know.
Yeah, I know. It's probably like a little TV.
That's what she said.
Yeah, mine's kind of big.
Yeah, you got to close your eyes. You got this massive one. You got this IMAX panoramic thing.
It's a little warpy, yeah.
Yeah, I know. You're going into this funky position. You got any neck? You got any neck pains?
The other day.
That worrying does take a physical toll. Now, how about you, Mara? You got something you worry about too much?
Billboard.
You got a billboard.
size one.
Okay. Now, ladies, what I want you to do real fast, what you're going to do in just a moment, not yet, is you're going to grab the memory and you're going to just grab it and really fast and then just shrink it down, shrink it all the way down to a dot. Really fast, blink it black and white, really fast. Shh. So you take the memory, you can do it, close your eyes, shrink it down, blink it black and white. Shh. Now hold it there and open up at the end of the memory or the end of the thing that you're worrying about. At the very end that you survived, you're still alive, you're still here, you managed to get here. And I want you to take the memory and then just run it backwards. Walking backwards, talking backwards, talking backwards, all the way back to the very beginning. And then just take a deep breath in through your mouth. Slowly let it out through your nose. Now, I want you to think about the memory. Does it still make you feel bad, or does it feel different? You're all looking more relaxed.
Mine feels a little better.
All right. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to set up some chairs here. Dun, dun, dun.
Is that okay?
Yeah. So, Tracy, I'm going to talk to you first, sleep. I want you to just let your head just gently just drift down. And just soften and relax. Just let your head go, let yourself go. Just let those thoughts just ease. Just let that stuff go, because I want you to take this arm here. And hold it up stiff. And I want your unconscious to just lock this in right here. Hold it stiff right here. And just relax and breathe deeper and deeper and softer. Because I want you to just think, what would be the perfect state for you to go in? Because if you're going to clear away anxiety, you're going to clear away worries, what would be a better state? And I know we talked about that happiness thing, you know, you wanted to be happy, I wanted to be sleepy, and then we just needed 5 more dwarfs. But there's all kinds of happiness. There's anticipation, there's excitement, there's determination. And I want you to just begin to form an idea in your mind, an idea of what the ideal state and the ideal Tracy would be. And let an image just bubble up in your mind. Because there's no reason to feel anything but comfort. And with each and every breath, I want you to just go deeper and deeper and softer still. And let your hand just go down at the rate and speed at which you aim yourself in a new direction. Because I know there have been times where maybe you felt, ooh, a little anticipation, and you were curious, and you anticipated something wonderful. Maybe it was a kiss, and you saw those lips and the juices started flowing. You know what I'm talking about. There's Tracy. There you go. That's the stuff, baby. Now just think of one of those times where you go, there you go. Now take that and double it. Now, just think about what, there you go, and the more you try to hold it back, of course, the more you laugh. Then the more you start laughing, the more you can't hold it back, and then you go to take a deep breath not to laugh, and of course you laugh even more until you start laughing, and at the moment I'm going to shake this arm, it's going to seem totally hysterical. There you go, that's the stuff there, Tracy. Now, there you go, and then that giggling can begin to spread. It can spread from one person, it can spread to the next person, and she can start giggling. Because while you're giggling, I want you to think about the most serious problem in your life, Tracy. There you go. That's the stuff. And while you're thinking about those serious problems, I want you to try to not laugh. Because it's only through laughing and having a perspective that you get to do things differently. There you go. Because I'm wondering in those situations, Tracy, what things you haven't tried yet you can. If you only let your sense of humor in your mind begin to wander in wonderful ways now. Because the thing is with that beautiful brain of yours is you got to aim it somewhere to go. Otherwise you'll just drift back into worries, and that should seem pretty funny. Now just think, what would be something wonderful? Most people get up and they ask themselves, what can go wrong? My question is, what can go right? What would be a more wonderful state for you to go into? And with each and every breath, each and every thought, I want you to just drift deeper and deeper and deeper still. And let yourself just begin to dream a dream where you start to see yourself behaving in new ways. And whenever you worry, I want you to just giggle and move on with it. Because the faster you move on, the faster you can find new and better things. Now you can get all stressed and stress your way through life. Or you can begin to smile and see new things, new possibilities, and begin to just relax with them. Now, what was your name again, dear?
Sandy.
Hi, Sandy. Now look at your hand. Look at your hand. Now I want you to just notice, look at your hair. Right here, take a deep breath. Everything's going to be okay now. There's no need to feel anything but comfort. I know you may be a little nervous, but it will fade. Just take a deep breath in through your mouth. Hold it. Slowly let it out through your nose. And just relax. Here we go now. Softer. Deeper. There you go. Right there. 3, 2, 1. Close your eyes and just relax. And let this go down. Because I'm wondering for you, have there been times where you just really, maybe you enjoyed yourself in spite of yourself, Maybe there was a time where you smiled and laughed and you couldn't hold it back. Maybe there was a time where you giggled inappropriately and you shouldn't have been. Maybe you were with some friends who were giggling with her too. And the more they started laughing, the more you started laughing. You do know what I'm talking about, right? You can take that smile and just let that memory come up in your mind. Make it big and bright. Get rid of that funky thing. You don't need that warped thing anymore, that funny stuff. Just let that dissolve and pull up that wonderful memory in your mind. Because as you pull it up, I want you to make the image, look at it, and make it bigger, make it brighter, make it clearer. And while you're looking at it, I want you to begin to find that perfect place where you can see that image and then just step all the way inside it. Where you go from maybe looking at yourself to being inside yourself. And you recapture that funny feeling. A feeling where you laughed and you couldn't hold it back. There you go. That's the stuff right there. Because I want you to take that feeling and begin to let yourself just drift down deeper and deeper still. Because I know there's some areas in your life where maybe you need to lighten up a little bit and see some more delight and feel some more delight. You know what I'm talking about, don't you? Because as you begin to just smile, you can see yourself behaving in new ways. New ways. And begin to just relax with them. So what I want you to do is to take this hand and just hold it up stiff here and only let it go down at the rate and speed at which that memory becomes bigger and brighter in your mind, and you just drop into that experience and let your mind drift and wander in all kinds of wonderful ways. Because I'm wondering, how much pleasure can you stand? I bet you don't wake up and ask yourself that question now, do you? It adds a whole new perspective to life. Because if you don't ask yourself the question, how much pleasure can I stand, you don't know what you're missing out on. See, people go, well, I have this problem. And it's not the problem that's the problem, it's everything else they've been missing. Because they haven't been looking in those places in their mind. And just let that drift down at the rate and speed at which you go into that experience. What I'm going to do is I'm going to have you just look into my eyes. And as you look into my eyes, I'm going to just show you where deep trance is. So I want you to just look into my eyes. Take a deep breath. In through your mouth. It's okay. Don't worry about your face. It'll be there when we come back. Deep breath in through your mouth. Hold it. Slowly let it out through your nose. And as you do so, I'm going to just begin to relax, and you're just going to go with me. Here we go. Another deep breath. Hold it. Slowly let it out through your nose. There you go. That's right. Close your eyes. And just feel your third eye. Just take your consciousness and just feel your third eye right there. And then take your consciousness and begin to circle it. Circle it around your face. Just feel it up to your cheeks and up to your forehead and then your cheeks and then on your cheeks, all the way back up, and take your consciousness and spin it round and round. And as you do so, I want you to begin to soften. Just take these pains in the neck here and just soften them. Nobody likes a pain in the neck now. There you go. That's the stuff. You got this stuff down here. You girls know this NLP stuff. There you go. You got it. Now close your eyes and just relax and drift down. Because I want you to begin to just soften yourself as you begin to just go into what it is you don't know yet can learn. Just relax. Nothing unusual is about to happen any second. Now, close your eyes and just relax. And just let go. Just take these shoulders and begin to soften them. Just take these shoulders and begin to soften them. Because I beg the question, how much pleasure can you stand? There you go, you got it. Take that feeling and begin to double it. Let it just tickle on down to the bottoms of your feet. How much pleasure can you stand, dear? Ooh, there you go. How much pleasure can you stand there? Yeah, there you go. Because just take that question and let it lead you down a new road into what it is perhaps you haven't seen yet you can begin to. If you just take the ideas and things that were in your way and begin to see them melting at the molecules. And ooh, that should feel really good. You look at those limiting beliefs and you go, where have I been limiting myself? And you see those areas and you start to dissolve those beliefs. Because the first most important thing to be able to do new things is to build a big, new, powerful belief that you can do them. Because otherwise, you're not going to try with every fiber of your soul, and you're not going to really find out. Now, I know all of you in the room believe certain things. Otherwise, you wouldn't have come here. You believe that the sun exists. Some of you bought tickets in advance. So clearly, you were planning on things existing. And if you think about a belief, something that you really believe, like the sun exists, just notice where the image is in your mind. Notice the size, the shape, the brightness. Notice where you get that certain feeling. Because as you see that image and you feel that feeling, you can begin to double it. You can go into a state of total belief deliberately. You don't need to just go into a state where you clear your mind and you spend 20 years meditating to find enlightenment and realize it was there all along. Because then you may get there and be like, man, this place really sucks. And if you spend too much time in anything as opposed to trying new things, then you don't know what you're missing out on. So just think of the sun in your mind, and where you see the sun, I want you to begin to just paint a new image where you see yourself behaving in new ways. Delightful ways, smiling ways, giggling ways, that's right. Because I know a lot of you have been too serious about a lot more things that we haven't talked about. People come in, they say they worry about one thing. I can guarantee you maybe there's a whole list of worries. Now you know what it is that you need to worry about no more. Because when you know more, you can start to relax and feel good while you're relaxing. And just take the images and thoughts in your mind and start to let them just fade away. And go inside and think of something you believe with certainty. See it in your mind, hear it, feel it, and begin to build yourself a big new belief. Because it's your brain, you get to do whatever you want with it. You can build whatever belief you want. So I'm wondering, how pleasurable can that belief be? Ooh, that's right, you got it. How wonderful can it be? Because here's the thing. Whether it's bagging beans, whether it's working as a nurse, whether it's working as a coach, whether it's being a therapist, you can be the best at whatever it is you do. And you can train yourself to get the most out of every experience. So that's what I want you to do now, is to begin to build a belief where you begin to set your sights on what the most wonderful, exquisite, luscious, vivacious life in you can be. Because you got to think something, so you might as well think something good. Otherwise, you're going to go back and worry. And that should seem silly. Oh yeah, you got this stuff down here. Double that, baby. Get that cooking. Yeah, take that smile and just begin to double it. Then you try not to smile and you smile even more. Maybe you could even giggle just a little bit and take that giggle all the way up. There you go. And then the giggling could spread to here and you begin to giggle. Oh, come on, bigger giggle than that. You know what a giggle is. There you go. That's the stuff. And even you, Mara, I know life is tough and life is serious, but you can giggle too and have a good time. Come on, big giggle, Mara. There you go. That's the stuff. And then giggling can start to jump and spread over here. And you start to smile and spite yourself. And you go, damn, I really shouldn't be giggling right now, but you just can't hold it back now, can you? There you go. That's the stuff. And then, of course, it can jump to Miss Tracy over here, and she can start bursting out laughing uncontrollably. Because while I'm talking to the rest, I want Tracy to begin to interrupt me inappropriately. I want her to begin to laugh out loud at me while I'm talking to everyone else, and I want it to begin to loop and loop and loop. And the more she laughs, the more it loops and loops. Because that's what we want to build, something that builds and feels wonderful, and you can't hold it back, because the more you can't hold it back, the more it starts to reach that point of saturation. a point of no return where it's here we go, baby. There's no holding back here. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. Yeah, just take that. There you go. That's the stuff, Tracy. You got this down, baby. There's no holding back here. Off to the races, to the promised land. And here she comes. Here she comes. More, more, more. There you go. That's the stuff. Now, while you're in this silly state, I want you to think about that serious problem. There you go. Now, Mara, actually, I'm going to start with you, my dear.
Okay.
Open your eyes. So, how about that worries? You got stuff you worry about? Creeped up on you. Close your eyes. Open your eyes. Now, how about you? You got stuff that you sit around and feel bad about? You know, that stuff's really important, right? Because otherwise you might enjoy yourself. How about now? Can you think about it now? Can you make yourself feel bad?
No.
Oh, I'm sorry. So what are you going to do with all the time?
I'm going to feel happy.
Okay. And now I want to be sleepy, so we got to recruit, 4 or 5 more people. Now, happy is a big word. What kind of happiness? Anticipation, excitement, curiosity?
Curiosity.
Curiosity. Well, I mean, you do look at children, they are quite curious. They're always asking questions, why? So I'm curious how good things can be. Close your eyes. Open your eyes, Mara. Hello.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good.
Good. Now, how about that stuff you worry about?
Me.
I know, interrupt the pattern thing. It works.
No. What I'm saying, I liked
Oh.
where I was, and you asked me now to think about it. I think.
Can you feel bad? You're laughing here. Are you laughing at me while I'm asking you to think about something serious?
You're talking to me, but I still see what I feel.
Oh, good. Can you go inside and
That's why
double?
you're interrupting me.
There you go. That's the stuff. Isn't it nice when someone comes and interrupts me? Clients go, that wasn't what I expected. I said, aren't you happy you were wrong? Guess how wrong you could be about the rest of your life, Mara? You could really fail to be miserable, You could be late for your unhappiness. You could really enjoy life in spite of yourself. I want you to remember that for the rest of your life now, okay? There you go. Now take that feeling. Close your eyes. How you doing here? Good? I don't even need to ask you. You're good. Close your eyes. How about you, Trace? There you go. Sorry, you come back to Blended Earth here for a moment, Trace. Open your eyes. You in there?
Yeah.
Are you going to come out at some point? That's okay. Stay in there. If you're in someplace, good, stay in there. Now, in a moment, what I want you to do, this last component, is I want you to just take this good feeling and think about where you want to paint it in your life. Yes, we can go into the precise neuromechanics and identify the fact that certain centers of your brain have just lightened and released neurotransmitters like serotonin and oxytocin and dopamine, which are going to help you to do pattern recognition. And you could go to a yogi and they would say you're working on your microcosmic orbit in your chi right now, and the smile is liberating that. However, we can do things much simpler. You could just think about where you want to feel this good feeling and paint that over. Think about where you paint that feeling, and then as you do so, in a moment, but not yet, I'm going to count to 5. And with every single count, you're going to just rise all the way up until when I get to 5, you're just going to explode with a wonderful sense of well-being, an irresistible feeling that's just going to well up all the way inside you, all the way up now. Oh yes, it's going to come all the way up from the bottoms of your feet, and it's going to rise 1, 2, welling up now, 3, even more, getting ready, 4, 4.5, 4 3/4, 5. Open your eyes. How you guys doing? Aren't you glad you came early today? You got front row seats. The rest of them there are worrying just the state I want them in. Thinking, what's he going to do to me next? Now, well, thank you. You did beautifully.
Thank you.
Thank you. You did beautifully. You did beautifully. You did beautifully. Beautifully. You guys can go on and sit back down. Now, I've seen my mentor Richard Bandler do this hundreds of times. And a lot of people, the serious group, the ones who want to keep their worrying, would say, well, that seems way too simple and silly, you know, for it to work. But here's the thing, what we're going for is we're going for saturation. So it's not enough to just get in some wimpy little feeling to create changes. Otherwise, you have to keep going back for 20, 30 sessions. See, what's going to create change is a convincing experience where you bathe your brain and it becomes a new generalized experience, where it becomes a new reference structure. I know this was a little bit silly here, but when I'm working with a client, it's a much more thorough process where we can go in and begin to create changes throughout their entire life. Because we all have different ways of motivating ourselves. Some of us get up in the morning and we're in the gym, bang, but we can't get ourselves to do taxes. Some people can't get to the gym, but they get right to the, the bag of potato chips. No problem, right there, sitting there. If it's in view, boom, watch out. Eye of the tiger, baby. And we have different ways of motivating ourselves for different things. So rather than being, oh, I'm a not motivated person, or I'm an unhappy person, or I'm depressed, hi, I'm depressed, and I always say, hi, I'm Chris, Get them giggling right away. We have different ways of motivating ourselves and thinking in different areas of our life. And worries specifically pertain to bad planning for the future. And all of you sitting here could probably predict situations in which you may get anxiety or trepidation. Yes? And you guys play the role of fortune tellers. People come in and they say, it's going to be bad, I'm going to get anxious in that situation, and it's, great plan. Unless you'd like to do something else. Now, part of worrying and feeling bad is we have to think certain thoughts. Now, our brain fires 10 seconds before we're consciously aware of it. So we'll go into a situation, and before you know it, nerves will be racking, and you'll be filled with this adrenaline response, and that's the point where it's too late. So the trick with all these problems is to get ahead of things. See, I don't want you going into anxiety so you'd have to get out. I'd rather you just step around it and reroute it. Because when you get ahead of things, all of a sudden you're in a different state when you go into the situation. Now it becomes repatterned. Now, if you just do it slightly enough, maybe you do a little bit of therapeutic work. Now, maybe you're taking drugs to alter your neurochemistry. Unfortunately, people run the same mental strategies, then they learn to be depressed and anxious on the drugs. Then they got to take new drugs, they learn to be anxious and depressed on those drugs. Before you know it, they're taking every drug and their brain's fried, And then we look at the commercials where you have the eggs in the pan being fried, and then they're telling you this is your brain sizzling. And you're just like, what? You got no idea what to do. That's when they find their way to me. And they go, you're my last hope. And I always tell them, well, you're screwed then. And they start laughing, I anchor it, and then we're off to the races. Because what's important is you build convincing experiences. Tony Robbins' Firewalk, the reason why it works is because people have a convincing experience where they've conquered one of their fears. So that way they can now look at other areas in their life where they're limiting themselves, and they can begin to go after and conquer them. Just like with the schizophrenic, I don't want him avoiding babies or going in and analyzing the reason why. I want him to see it as something he can go in and master. I want the child or the son who's having issues with learning to see it as a game where he has to find the right strategy to get the right performance and master it. Because when you see it as that, as opposed to reflecting on your value as a human being, your purpose, it creates a different level of motivation. So one of the most important things in neurolinguistic programming land is separating the individual from the behavior. Because some days we act like who we are and want to be, and other days we don't. So the question is, what days are you going to focus on to determine and say, oh, this is me. And then you realize, you discover who you were, and then you realize you're no longer there. And then you think, well, I could be someone else. I could, have the strategy of the best, most brilliant artist, of the best kid in math. And that's what we do with the whole neurolinguistic programming. So the trick is with anxiety is to get ahead of things. And the whole key is saturation. You don't want to flip things under the rug, you want to go after it. And the most important thing is to plan ahead of time, is to get your state of consciousness switched. Whether that's working out and getting into a high zone state. Whether it's listening to music and dancing, whether it's getting up in the morning and listening to music and looking in the mirror and having James Bond's voice playing. Damn, you're beautiful, baby. You know what you do with the self-doubt? You have two options. Number one is when someone tells me they have like their mom saying they're not enough in their head, is I have them either turn it to Sylvester the cat, suffering succotash, you'll never amount to anything. Or you do what I do. You just turn it into the sexiest damn thing ever, where I'm just looking at, and I'm just saying to myself, Chris, you'll never be able to do it. Do it really good. Next thing you know, I'm just saying, yeah, baby, anything, let's get this done. I do have to do that for certain areas of my life, so we're all working on this thing. Now, it's all a matter of getting more control over your internal state. So what I'd like to do is I would like to do a demonstration, and for all those who are paying attention, can begin to go through the same process with me while I'm doing this. So does any one of you don't need to share any details about it. Do any of you have an area of your life where you get anxiety or trepidation? Or you maybe act too serious? Maybe you yell at your kids and you don't want to. Any of you have a situation that you'd like to do something about it?
Does that
Yes?
include everything?
Come on up here, my dear. Come have a seat. Have a seat right here. Now, okay. So you got a situation where you basically get too serious and you act away and you don't want to, yeah? Mm-hmm. Okay, good plan. Now, try not to laugh yet. I'm saving that for a few moments, okay? I know it's the truth. I just call people out. They say you need to empathize and be warm. I'm just genuine, I call it like it is. So for instance, what I want you to do is I want you to just for a moment close your eyes and just think back to the situation and make sure we got it. You got a good one where you cook yourself up with a bad feeling? Mm-hmm. Okay, don't smile too much yet. We're not there yet. You don't want to go too soon now. There you go. Now just double that. Why not? Just go right for it, baby. Just reprogram that thing right away. Now, when you get that bad feeling, can you get any of it bad right now? Are you having difficulty? You having some difficulty? Oh, shucks. So you might have to feel good in spite of yourself then. That was pretty quick. You were paying attention when I was working with those girls there, weren't you? Yes, that's very smart. You were breathing and feeling good too. Man, there's some laughter over there. I need some of that. I'm going to get some of that. There you go. Yeah, I could use some laughter stuff and some new beliefs. Yeah, those sound good for me. Yeah. You're jumping ahead. I like that about you. You're learning about this stuff. You're getting smarter already. That's the stuff. Now, while you take that feeling, I want you to think of that situation now and feel bad and vain. Now think of another area of your life where you're taking too serious. In fact, you could take this arm, you could hold it right here, and you could run through your entire life. You can make changes in every single area of your life. And I want your unconscious now to hold this stiff and only let it down at the rate and speed at which you take that feeling right there and you think about all the shit that you were taking way too seriously. There you go. That's the stuff. You got it. Now, every little inch that goes down, I want that feeling to double until the moment you get down to your knee, your problems are going to seem totally hysterical. In fact, they always say they got hysterical problems. You go to a therapist, he said he's suffering from hysteria. You're going to have a new form of diagnosis, laughing too much. There you go. That's the stuff. Now, you're just in the right state in which I need you now. Now, there you go. Because you can take that smile and feel it from the bottoms of your feet. You can feel your toes and pull it all the way up to your knees, to your hips, all the way up. There you go. That's the thing about giggling. Once it gets going, you can't hold it back. Because the more you try not to giggle, of course, you're going to keep it coming. It just keeps going, and then it can become something that loops. There you go. That's the stuff. You got the spirit, baby. You guys paying attention to this? You might want to. You can learn some serious stuff here. We're getting some serious delightment here, baby. There you go. Okay, what else were you thinking too serious? How about you got a husband? You married? Okay. Now, a little suggestion, you don't want to be laughing all the time. Because if he looks at you in the bedroom, you start laughing. Not the response you want. That he's going to come after me saying, what did you do, man? All she does is laugh at me now. There you go. That's the stuff. Oh, man. There you go. And then you think about another area, how you work. Okay, I want you to think about no? Do you want to? No? Okay. All right. That should feel good then. Okay, you got kids who do relatives, relatives who call you. Oh, yeah. You're going to feel totally different now. You might even start enjoying their call because they're going to call, they're going to tell you the same shit over and over again. And you know it's coming. In fact, when they tell you the same shit, you could say, wow, it's so nice to hear you say that again. And visualize the steam coming out of their head as they get pissed, and the more they suffer, the more you won't. Oh. Now, what else were you taking too seriously?
That's it.
Oh, that's it?
My whole life.
Whole life solved the whole thing. You know.
Laugh long.
Yeah. There you go. Now, just to be sure, look back in your past and see the silliest thing that you did. No, even funnier, think about repeating that stuff in the future. Think about not being motivated. Think about just migrating your way to the couch. Think about eating unhealthy. Think about denying yourself more joy. No, think about procrastinating. Oh, hesitating. Oh, that's a serious problem now, isn't it? I want you to think of one area where maybe you've been hesitating and you shouldn't have been. You got some of that stuff? Okay. There you go. That's the time to laugh now. Let it go. Oh, come on. Don't get all serious on me here. You know you're doing it right if it hurts. Body weight, working out, all of it. If it hurts a little bit, you're doing it right. You ain't really extending or applying yourself if it doesn't hurt a little bit now. Yes, you know what I'm talking about. Because you could take this feeling and you could connect it to your work. You could go, oh, maybe there's a book in there. Maybe. Or maybe it's someone booking you more vacations. Oh, we never thought of that. Because the next time they're skeptical about something, you could anchor that in. And then when you say, think about denying me a vacation, honey, and then you fire off the skeptical anchor, suddenly he starts feeling skeptical about denying you a vacation. He says, honey, anything you want. And then you say, anything? And he goes, oh, you already said it, too late. Book my vacation now. Commands go down. You're going to need to learn this stuff because men need proper training. And you got a dog? Well, it's kind of like training a dog. If the dog leaves the clothes in the room and you don't want it to, rather than getting all mad at the dog, you connect the bad feelings to the clothes. So that way that like the dog doesn't want to have the shit thrown in its face. Now if you just get mad at the dog will just avoid you. But if you make the dog fear having the shit in their face, then gradually you can train it not to poop where it eats or in your house. You can move. You put them on a leash, yeah. That's what she said. Seems like too much work to me. I think you need to laugh that one off there. Sometimes an idea is good, sometimes it's no good. It's good to pay the difference between those two. Now, I know even for you, when you're laughing and feeling good here, I know there's been a time where you felt absolutely wonderful and nothing was going to get in your way. Oh yes, you know what I'm talking about. You can feel the juices seep inside you. Because if you take that feeling and you combine it with the laugh, all of a sudden you could start to build a new state of consciousness. You didn't think about that. Because if you take that smiling, giggling, and you step inside of that feeling of determination, and you really recapture the feeling, notice where it starts, notice where it moves to next, and then begin to double it with each and every thought and breath now. And as you do so, I want you to take this arm and hold it up stiff here, and lock it in. And I want you to just feel a pull between your thumb and your nose. And it's just the attraction to making this new feeling the dominant, overwhelming force in your brain whenever you need it. And I want you to feel that pull and let your hand go closer. And the closer it gets, the stronger that feeling. More and more, there you go. And as you do so, I want you to stop right there and just think about a situation where maybe you hesitated and feel differently. Because the moment your thumb touches your nose, I want you to hear your voice changing, the pictures changing, the feeling changing, and really see yourself behaving in new ways, new possibilities. And that should feel really good. Yes, let it come all the way inside, and all the way up, and all the way through. Just keep it closer, closer. And the moment your thumb touches your nose, I want you to see those new possibilities. You literally hear your voice changing, the pictures changing, the feeling changing, and the power coming all the way inside you. Now, all the way, there you go. Oh, that's the stuff. And just hold that stiff right there. Because as you do so, in a moment, I'm going to shake that wrist twice, and you're going to drop into a deep, comfortable, relaxed sleep. And you're going to just dream a dream, or you begin to let your imagination run away with you. Because that's the thing about dreaming. It's when we have the chance to consolidate the learnings and new feelings of the day and begin to build new networks in our brain, which we can start to use. And in a moment, you're going to just drop and let your brain just rehearse these good feelings and begin to see yourself behaving in new ways. 1, 2, just sleep right down and just relax. Because when I'm talking to you, my voice will be directed to you. And when I'm talking to the audience, you'll know I'm talking to them. And you know, if ever at any moment you start worrying or getting too serious, your unconscious knows what to do. There you go, that's the stuff. Because you have your entire life ahead of you. And I want you to begin to build a new unconscious flight path. So that way you automatically begin to be propelled towards the things that it is you need to be more propelled to. And your unconscious knows what those are. Just let your mind just drift away in all kinds of wonderful ways. Because I'm going to ask you the same question I asked the other ladies. How much pleasure can you stand? There you go. That's the stuff. You see, they're responding in the audience, so you could be responding even further in your mind. You're going to hear, it's either you're going to have the voice or you're going to hear my voice in there as you wake up saying, ooh, how much pleasure can you stand? Because that's the whole thing about enlightenment, you know. Now just relax. Whenever you come up, just let yourself drift down. It's kind of just like sleeping. Sometimes you'll drift up, you'll come back to awareness, and then at a certain moment, your unconscious takes over, and your mind just begins to drift. You do it every night, even if you have trouble sleeping. There's a moment where your mind just drifts away, and you get lost in new possibilities now. How you guys doing? Now, what we begin to do is build distinct, and you can just keep relaxing and just go from drifting up and smiling to relaxing, because I want you to just begin to see yourself behaving in new ways, wonderful ways. And anytime any crappy thoughts come up, just see it as a crappy dress. You just put that right off. You go into a store, you don't try on the crappiest looking dress in there. You try on something that you do like. And then you check yourself out in the mirror a little bit. You don't think of it for 2 seconds like my depressives. What would make you happy? They go, nothing. And they think about for 2 seconds. They never once tried on one of those ideas to see how it would look. Because when you have an idea, you don't want to do the worrying thing. You want to step right inside it and see how it looks and feels. There you go. Now, double that, baby, right there. Now, what we want to begin to do is build precise differentiation between states. What happens is most people's state of consciousness is too turmoiled. And case in point are the autistic kids that I work with. They're in this turmoiled state of consciousness, so therefore they can't do what humans naturally do to learn, is pattern recognition. And that requires that we feel differently about different things. When kids are in a test, they may know the answer, but when they're in that turmoiled state, they can't differentiate the right answer from the wrong answer, the right word from the wrong word, the right decision from the wrong decision. So we can really develop someone's intuition and ability to create distinctions between what is working and what isn't working, what is right and what isn't right, what's really good for them and what's not good for them. So that way they can begin to really detect right from wrong for them. Because autistic kids, when you get them relaxed and you get them even raise things like oxytocin, suddenly they start being able to do pattern recognition, where they can begin to differentiate a happy face from a sad face, a good thought from a silly thought. There you go. Because pattern recognition is how we learn, and we learn rapidly. And it's part of that is by having certain feelings about different things. So we're now hearing about the importance of the gut brain. Now, the enteric nervous system is a big part of how we feel. And it's actually the seat of learning neurologically. And when our enteric nervous system, how we feel, really dictates how our brain's going to work and how we can remember information. Because if we don't have a certain feeling about things, and if we're feeling in a different state when we're going into a performance situation versus when we actually learn the information, then if you're feeling differently, you're not going to be able to re-access that information. Because the information's going to be connected. There you go, you got it. Oh, little detoxification, little clearing. Yep, little house clearing there. Just let it come and go. Little detox. Because in a moment, I'm going to count to 3 and you're going to wake all the way up. And you're really going to begin to surprise yourself delightfully. You're going to feel perhaps better than you ever have. Be more motivated than you ever have. You're going to really start to put your mind to things and look for the ways to get it done, get to it, and move on to the next thing. Because I want you to really begin to explore each day how good you can feel, how much you can learn, and how much you can really start to enjoy life. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Open your eyes. How you doing? Hi. Very high. So what was that thing you worried about? You never did tell us.
Do you need to? You said it. It's so
No,
silly. It's so silly.
Okay.
It's silly.
Now, how about the thought of repeating it?
Pardon?
How about repeating it?
What you're talking about?
There you go. That's the stuff. Thank you.
You.
Here, shall I walk you to your seat here? You doing good?
I used to be a drunk. I know how to water.
Yeah. The key word used to be. Now, so as I was saying about the autistic children, is feeling differently about different things is how we learn. And it's really important to create precise differentiations between things so that we can learn and remember better. So what we want to begin doing, and this is part of how we engineer our own genius, is we want to not only plan what it is we want to do, we want to plan the very states of consciousness we want to go into in those situations. So for instance, things like motivation. If you get yourself all feeling good, like, you know, even I did for these ladies here, and you don't connect that feeling to particular situations, the feeling's just going to burn out, and then the day-to-day grind's going to come back, and it's, oh shit, I'm back to the same old stuff. You know, how come it isn't working? Because you need to take those ecstatic states and those altered states and connect it to the specific situations in which you're going to go into. So that way you basically train your brain to build new habits. Not the old thing, the new thing. Not the thing where you go and feel angry and feel bad, the new thing where you behave in the way you want. And it requires saturation. It's not enough to just visualize things, because the funny thing about people working with their own brain is that they're limited with their own limitations of their own brain. So this is the point where a lot of things like neurolinguistic programming, like even energy work, in different work, it's really powerful to actually do it with someone else to help you get into altered states. Or you really just get ferocious about exploring your own brain and mind. Because a lot of you have a lot of practice feeling bad. But a lot of you do not have the practice of feeling good and how good you can feel. Because for something like happiness, there's all kinds of different happiness. There's excitement. There's excitement with curiosity. There's determination with passion. Determination with curiosity. Determination with ecstasy. All kinds of stuff, and if you don't know and if you're not exploring, then you don't really find out. So it's really important to understand that your brain is a targeting machine, and you can go in and you can begin to create better plans for yourself. So sometimes we hear about professional athletes doing like mental rehearsal. You can take this like to the next level. You can think about some habit that you repeat every day. It doesn't matter whether it's good or bad, because it's really dependent upon the context. It's either useful or it's not. What you're looking for is something you do repeatedly. And you just sit back and you think about that thing, you notice where it is in your mind, you notice how it feels, and you get into that state, and then you put the thing that you want to do as a new habit, you put it right on top. The same size, the same shape, the same feeling, the same sounds, and suddenly you can begin to build a new habit. And then you can do what every great heart surgeon does and repeat it over and over and over again. And in a matter of 2 hours, I can probably condense maybe a good 1,000 hours of practice into 2 hours when you really saturate and immerse and connect everything. So that's the thing. Most people, they don't go deep enough, they don't go hard enough, and they don't go long enough. They stop short. For instance, you go see, any of you, if you work with healers, you work with different people, it's not enough just to create a little bit of change. That's the point in time when you're feeling those altered state, that altered feeling, where you go back and you repattern and you run through everything. So that way you can build a whole new generalization. So that way the change sticks, as opposed to just having what most people have is just that temporary, momentarily high. All right, so what we're doing is we're connecting ideas and feelings. We're connecting ideas in the whole field, because we got this whole magnetic field of everything that is and circulating around us. And perhaps every thought that's ever been thought is out there circulating. And all you need to do is say, oh, here, I'm over here, and put your antenna up and let the thought come, and you could be thinking like Einstein, right? You could be solving mathematical equations. But I guarantee you, your probability of doing that's going to be much reduced if you're saying you can't and I'm not amounting to anything and I'm not enough. It just seems like a bad plan. Wouldn't you agree? There you go, double that. Now, now, here's the thing. You either want to slant the odds in your favor or not. Because all your kids, and even yourself, the deck was stacked against you. Right? When you went in there, those teachers, they didn't know any better. They implanted bad feelings in you. Then you just needed to look at your English textbook or your math textbook and you felt bad. Then you didn't even want to study, so you didn't even fully apply yourself or access your full creativity or ability. Then you went into an exam and you got stressed. Then you went into the exam, it was all stressed. Then when you got out of the exam, suddenly the answers started popping into your mind. It's like, shit, why didn't I think of that while I was writing the exam? It's because you went into an altered state. Now, so every score you guys have ever gotten in your life may be slanted. You may not even be close to what it is you're capable of doing. And the same is true for your kids. What they're getting now may be not reflective at all of what they're capable of. And all because of the wonderful hypnotists we've been given are all the teachers in the educational system, our parents, which are telling you not to strive too much and to be fearful, and that we may not be enough, and don't strive too much, it may not happen, where all of you may not have explored how good it is you can perform and feel. So ultimately, when people are coming to see me, even if they think it's just about getting over their problem, I have bigger plans in mind. And there's stuff that they know that's happening, and then there's stuff that we want to work to happen. Because it's not enough to remove something or diminish something. We have to build in something else to go in its place. We have to build in a new direction. Because there's what it is that you've all experienced and do well, and you can take that, and you can take that and color that with another area of your life. And there's what it is you haven't even done yet that would change everything. Now, it's where you don't know, that's where the source of all the discoveries are. Because even the greatest scientist, at a certain point in time, the smartest people in the world, they're still looking at their work and they're saying to themselves, you know, what if I'm freaking wrong? You know, there's got to be a better way. And rather than that being a source of stress, it can be a source of discovery. It can be a source of new ways as opposed to a source of greater fear. And the nice thing is, as I say this a lot when I work with people, is if we took an Asian, if we took an African, if we took a South American, if we took a Viking, if we took a Canadian, and we brought them all here, and we were going to train them to play hockey. If we got the best trainers in the world, we could train the Asian and the African to be the best players in the league because they'd get the right strategies, they'd get the right training, and therefore they would get the right performance. Now, a lot of people would say, well, I had all these traumatic experiences, they were raped, all these bad things that happened, there's no way that could happen in the future. There's no way these kids are enough. They'll never amount to anything. But if we found the right teachers with the right strategies and the right approach, we could get these kids to perform and excel better than the people who may be genetically predisposed. But then there's this cool thing. We see our genetics, every gene, there's these things called methylation and acetylation, histone acetylation. And these things are actually like the cards and keys that determine the amount and the degree to which different genes are expressed. And it's turning out, science is showing, this is even more important than genetic blueprint. So rather than you going, you know, at being 9 years old, looking at your mom and dad and going, I'm fucked. You know, it turns out there's a lot of hope that you can reprogram and change how your genes are expressed. And it turns out this is really important for your offspring. So it turns out these epigenetic changes actually do get passed down onto the offspring. And even beyond that. So part of the cool work is the work you do now is going to affect future generations. And the cool thing is even if you've been given a bad deck, you can change which cards you want to play and show. It's just like a card hand. You can choose what cards you're going to play. And you can draw from the deck. Because we actually are learning that we can create matter out of nothing. And that's the field of physics, is that, the brain is really the matter of the mind. It's the matter, the software of our thoughts, emotions, and experiences, which becomes codified in this brain. And then the codification influences those thoughts and experience. Now you can go in and biohack the crap out of both of them. You could put in the best, the most super awesome nutrition to get your brain, the hardware fueled. You can think the most best thoughts ever. You do as many altered states, get all kinds of experiences, get yourself programmed, and get both sides of the cycle optimized. So what we have now, and what I want to create is, we have the external side. That's very well created out, and that's how I got into this, is external technologies, neurofeedback, neurofield, PEMF, hyperbaric oxygen therapy, light therapy, nutrition. All these external biohacking things which are out there and known to change brain-mind consciousness. Now, the other side is the internal side. That's more Eastern philosophy. That's where the meditation, the yogas, the qigongs really developed. And that's where the hypnosis and NLP comes in, where you can go in on the internal side, create changes in your mind and brain to change the external. And in fact, if you do both on each side, you can be stacking the deck completely to your favor and start rocking life like an absolute superhero, which is obviously my choice. And you can build any abilities you want, because as soon as you start looking for ways that it can be done, you just go to whoever's the best at what they're doing, you figure out what it is they do in their mind, you elicit the repeatable strategy, and you begin to use it, and the skill begins to transfer. And that's the whole field of neurolinguistic programming. Yeah, so that's where my mentor, Richard Bandler, he worked with the most famous golfers in the world, and because he would see them, he would see them, doing their swing, and they'd be looking down, and then they're doing their swing, and then sometimes they do the swing little thing a little bit longer, and then sometimes they just go for it. And he'd ask them, how do you know when to hit the ball? And the guy said, well, this is going to seem crazy. And Richard smiled. He's like, everything seems crazy to me. The fairway shrinks. It's almost as if it expands, and I can see it up close. And that's when I know I get a feeling to hit the ball. So for instance, for golfers, you can actually go in your mind, go back, remember the shots and things you did well, and when you got in the zone, and you can go back just before that to see what happened in your mind and the certain feeling you got when you hit a good stroke versus what happened when you hit a bad stroke, because it's almost as if you know ahead of time. Now what happens is, as you begin to create that separation, suddenly you can begin to expand that high performance state of consciousness. You see, baseball players, actually this is kind of the cool thing to get into. Baseball players do it all the time where they get in the zone. All of a sudden they start hitting the ball and they start saying the ball looks like a beach ball, and they start hitting it. And it's like, wow, I just can't miss the ball. Every one man home run, no big deal. Now imagine if they could go in and do that deliberately. And then imagine if you could train every other player on the team to do that. So that's kind of what we're going into to look to do. Because everyone's got the external side. I mean, and in my work, I have a hyperbaric oxygen chamber, I got QEEG brain mapping, got neurofield, neurofeedback, and I did it all. And then, like everything else, there's a point in time where, what's more? Because still, when I would get people who I was working, this was when I was in London, I was working with a doctor. He was a chiropractor. He had an autistic son. So we were basically working in his practice. He had the QEEG brain map. We had the hyperbaric, which I bought off him, now I use. And we were having clients come in all day, patients with Alzheimer's, concussion, and we would map their brain. Then we would design a tailored nutrition protocol with different nutraceuticals, some of which I've recommended for you. And then we'd get them in the hyperbaric, we'd do some neurofeedback, then we'd remap their brain after 3 months, and we'd see everything was balanced. And everything neurologically looked balanced. We did the blood work, it looked all balanced. We did, hair tests, all the minerals, everything was clean. But still this person was getting depression because there was something more there. And the mind is more than the matter. And it actually is the matter. And the mind of the matter and the matter of the mind here today is how you can use your brain to really start to take control of it. And that's by really changing the modalities and properties of how you're thinking. So for me, that's what led me to learn the neurolinguistic programming, the trance, and hypnosis. It's really, imagine meditation on steroids with someone who basically knows where to go and how to create altered states. Now you guys can actually do it to yourself. Some people, who smoke things and take things, all you need is one experience. Once you've experienced once, your consciousness has accessed it and experienced it. So all you need to do is actually just go back and re-experience it. I have clients do that all the time. When they've taken pain medications because they got pain, I put them back into like the morphine state. And then I build in triggers to teach their unconscious to get them into the morphine state whenever that pain fires off. Now, of course, going through this, the first time I did it, it wasn't always successful. But the more you're continuing to look for what works and the strategies and things that work, quickly now, I could take someone who's with pain, do 20, 30 minutes of trance, and their pain is cut in half. And the whole key is training it so that way they're not reliant on me, they begin to trust themselves because they act in their own best interests. And if any of you guys are coaches or therapists, it's really important that you build in the own internal control in the individual. Because the people who are the control freaks, they're the most out of control. In fact, they're spinning because they can't shut it off. And the more they start spinning, I start asking them, who's doing the spinning? And they look back in their mind and I go, yes, that's right, go back and close your eyes. Great trance induction, you know. You just break the pattern right up, you know. You know, what part are you, the conscious mind or unconscious? You know, can't be hypnotized, you know. And then you just start accessing the brain in a new way. Because what happens is part of the problem is you start from the same feelings. Therefore, you go down the same neural pathway. The neural pathways are designed to just run. You start off from the same thing, boom, then they're just designed to do their flight plan. And once they get running, then it's almost like you don't have a choice. So for instance, one therapist who was Richard's mentor, her name was Virginia Satir. She was a famous family therapist, world-renowned. And one of the things she said is people don't have a choice until they have a choice, and then typically they'll make the best choice. So for instance, this kid with the OCD and schizophrenia, he was the only kid who didn't have the answer. His father had the answer because he could tell the difference between fantasy and reality. Now everyone is observing him and observing his past to look for the answer. That's not where the answer is. The answer is in the person who doesn't have the problem. You see, if you have a kid who has ADD, the answer is not in them. The answer is in the kid who does it well. You find out with the kid who does it well and you teach it to the kid who doesn't, and suddenly the skill begins to transfer. Because everything is more neuroplastic than it was led to believe. Flexibility is the key to life. Because whoever's the most adaptable, whoever has the more choices of different states of consciousness they can go into, the better things get. I learned that quite fast. I used to be the most determined, motivated, serious guy. I still am, but I realized that's only one state. To be a dynamic human being, we have to develop other states. You know, I would have never thought I would get people laughing in a seminar with all the anxiety and things I had. Now it's just a piece of cake because you find what works, you use the tool, and of course you have your own unique way of doing it, and you get the skill, the result. So that's what I do in my work, is I do the neurological side, the brain imaging, the nutritional side, but the most important thing above all is the consciousness side, because it's way more than the sum of the parts. And for those of you who've studied NLP, I can tell you what you guys know NLP and what Richard Bandler does, they're not necessarily the same thing.